Let's go. What's up, boys and ladies? We got yours truly in the house. We also got
Stock Geek TV.
Let's go. Hope you guys are amped. We got price moving. It's only been 8 months of consolidation. You know, this is kind of how I think it's felt for a lot of people. And unfortunately, a lot of people give up right here, right before the diamonds, baby. But what are we going to do? We're going to keep hammering, just like we've been doing the past 11 years. That's right. As of November, will be my 11-year anniversary of being a full-time Bitcoiner. Some people say I'm the first Bitcoin trading and investing educator in the world. There might be some truth to that. We got Travis, who worked at a hedge fund for 15 years, different hedge funds. He came from the dark side. We pulled him over here to hang out with us DGens. Now he's pulling up some, what are you trading today? Costco coin or some shit?
Hey man, I'm hodling. This is my long-term retirement plan.
Nice. He's got Dex screener pulled up. Let's see if we get these charts going too. But yeah, can you guys hear us okay? Just give us a hell yeah, or a let's go in chat if you can hear us and see us. If the audio sounds okay, if the video looks good, we can see comments. I think there's like maybe a 30 or 60-second delay. But yeah, let's fucking go, boys. Let's go, ladies. Hey, Ashley. What's up, Andre? What's up, Craig, Aaron, and Dimitri? How's it going, everybody? I know we've got a lot of folks from the wealth building community. We got some of you guys from YouTube, from the Twizzler. Twitter doesn't really promote YouTube links, so I don't know how many people on Twitter are going to see this.
Elon has a little bit of beef with YouTube right now.
Yeah, we only have one mic right now, so we're just going to be throwing this thing around. We were not planning on going live today, and then I noticed, I'm like, okay, shit, 70K is snapping. We've got open air to all-time highs. We got to do this. We don't get to do this every day. So,
dude, it's an absolutely insane week in financial markets too right now. So we talked about this in our community late last week and early this week, but it's like we're just drinking from the fire hose right now. I thought we had enough already with, earnings all week. We've got 5 of the Mag 7s reporting. We've got an unemployment report on Friday. We've got a ton of other macro data, a Japanese central bank meeting. And oh yeah, Bitcoin decides it wants to break out to all-time highs. So it's a wild week, man. And oh, by the way, are there some things happening next week that the markets are preparing for as well? Can you think of anything that might be important next week? I don't know, a Fed meeting. I don't know, a U.S. federal election.
Yeah. Driving everybody insane.
Oh my God, dude, it's getting so bad. It's just intensifying. Everything I'm seeing today is election related, and I'm over it. I was over it, at the start of the year. Now I'm really over it.
Oh, dude, I'm so burnt out. I'm ready to just go hide in the woods for a couple months.
There's just so much propaganda right now.
No. All right, so we're gonna get kicked off here in a second, but before we do that, will every single person in here hit the like button, please? If damn Roaring Kitty can get, what did he have, 500,000 or 1 million people on his bullshit live stream for a GME pump and dump? Oh my God. And we actually have real markets with real millionaires. And I know hundreds, if not thousands of you guys that I've had personal conversations with that have built millions of dollars of net worth over the past decade with us. And some of you guys are brand new and still on your hustle and grind. But yeah, if you would, just tap that like button. So maybe the algo can give us some love. I'm like the world's worst YouTuber because I'm super inconsistent. And I can tell that the algo just hates me now. It doesn't push my videos out for shit. But I don't care. I enjoy doing content. So I'm going to keep doing it. Also, give Trav a follow, Stock Geek T Vizzle. Do you want to talk about your your new portfolio. I've got my portfolio challenge and you've got a new one as well. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm actually working on a video myself. You talk about not being consistent, but the the next big push here is to be more consistent on our channels. But one thing that I'm going to do to help myself do that is I've got a fresh money portfolio that I just started as of last week. It got funded. So it's $100,000, which is, to some people, a lot of money, to others, not a lot. It felt like a nice round number to start with, an accessible number. So I pulled over some other retirement funds and pulled that into a fresh account, new account, freshly funded. I've already actually bought one position or two positions, an option positions and a stock position. So I'm going to talk about that at some point. But just generally what I'm trying to do with that is I want to open up the kimono, so to speak, on how I manage a portfolio and what it looks like to think through different portfolio management decisions and how I think about researching positions, adding positions, scaling out of positions. There's a lot of things I can talk about relating to, actually going through the mechanics of running a real portfolio. So that's the goal. And I've got some parameters and kind of ideas around how I want to manage it. So I'll be talking about that in my kind of first video about the portfolio. So hopefully I'll be putting that out by the end of the week. Like I said, I've been working on the content. We've got the portfolio funded, and yeah, it'll be cool. I think we'll see.
I think people will love it, man. Yeah. Not a lot of people have access to, get insights from somebody who literally grew $1 billion fund, which at the time you were at the fund was one of the best performing funds in the world. So I think that's cool. I'm also doing a challenge. My last video, I basically had a stock account that was around $1 million. It was a little bit more. And then I moved some Bitcoin into a wallet to kind of match it. It was 1.2 or something. And the goal there for me is to see which one can I grow to 10 million with the best risk adjusted returns. So meaning the lowest drawdowns. I think Bitcoin will get there quicker, but will it still have the best risk adjusted returns over the next few years? I don't know. We'll see what I can do with that. But the stock portfolio is balanced. It's half individual stocks, half stock indices, and a tiny bit of bonds. But yeah, we'll see, man. Hopefully you kick my butt on the stock side.
Well, it's funny because, not only, so I've got the $100,000 portfolio, and it's funny because, maybe I should have gone bigger because compared to yours, it's going to look pretty puny, but
no, it's cool. It's cool. I think it's a good difference in strategy.
Yeah, I wanted a number that felt real to people who are your average middle class, working professional. That feels a lot more real. And the goal for me is to just grow that and compound that and see where we can take that in the next couple of years. So, I don't have a specific, obviously, if we can take that 100K to $1 million, within a couple of years, that'd be awesome. We'll see how it goes. But I think it's hopefully will be helpful to people that are trying to think through these decisions. And yeah, I mean, it'll be exciting. I have a question for you though, which is, we've got Bitcoin almost hitting, fresh highs here. How do you think about the potential for Bitcoin's returns in the years ahead? Because there is an argument that now that it's a, institutionalized asset class, a lot more capital, a lot more market cap, maybe we shouldn't expect the types of returns that Bitcoin has had in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years going forward. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be at $1 million in a couple of weeks and then 3 million. No, the way that I think about it is there's a few different cases, right? There's the weird extreme bull case, which is we have hyperinflation or something really weird happens and Bitcoin goes straight to $1 million or something, which I don't think that would actually be good for the economy. If that happened, things would probably be weird to cause that. In my last video, I actually talked about the CAGR and the returns over the past decade and how they have started to shrink, right? And as you said, the more mature a market becomes, the tighter those markets are with more liquidity, more derivatives, futures, options, ETFs, right? That just creates a little more of a competitive environment. But, looking at the past decade plus, Bitcoin has absolutely been the top performing asset class. And I expect it to, on average, over the next decade, to also do really, really well. I think we'll still have bear markets. I think there's still going to be a lot of volatility. But as we've seen, after the ETFs actually launched, and let me pull up the chart here. So if we just look at a month, let's look at a monthly. the ETFs launched here in January, and we had some buying Momo off of that. And then we basically had like 7 or 8 months of consolidation. So I think we're still going to see a lot of consolidation. And I think there are more pros, there's algorithms, there's professional traders in there and all that shit. So it's going to be harder, I think, on an intraday basis. Like if you're trying to day trade Bitcoin, those smaller time frames, I think, are going to be harder to trade. That's why I love to swing trade and hold for days, weeks, or months at a minimum, and just take advantage of the bigger swings. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that is a nice tailwind, just absolutely long term, but even in the near term, of course, is the inflation of the money supply, particularly in the US. And so we see that speeding up, not slowing down, at least in the current environment. So that's something that I think is absolutely helpful for continuing to juice returns, not only in Bitcoin, but also other risk assets like stocks, for instance. So I think that's one thing in the backdrop that is almost never changing unless we see some big massive shift that we don't see on the horizon today. I'll go back to Lynn Alden's famous quote, which is, the train never stops, I think is what she quotes.
You can't stop the damn train. It's going.
Yeah.
Who's gonna stop?
I mean, fiscal deficits, we're running in the US, I think, around a 6.5% deficit to GDP this year, in a year where we're not really fighting any major wars. I mean, we're funding some wars, but we're not really fighting a major war ourselves. Yeah. And we're not in a recession. And so you've got a 6.5% deficit GDP. That's the highest that we've ever had in a time like this. And so what does it look like in a Trump administration when he's cutting rates, or what does it look like in a Kamala administration if she's, continuing to give more handouts? Like this number could potentially grow from here, which is wild to think about. So I think that's one thing that, just from a very long-term fundamental perspective, can only help the asset class returns. And then I think, supply demand dynamics too. Like when I think about, of course, the finite supply, and how, most of the Bitcoin that's ever going to be mined has already been mined. And just the tokenomics of Bitcoin obviously are very strong. So I think that's something as well from the fundamental side that makes a long-term case for the asset. So I don't know if it's going to compound at 50% CAGRs over the next 2 decades, but I definitely think it's going to be in a good spot for excess returns well above inflation, which I expect to still itself be high.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I'm doing the challenge, is to see like how the CAGR, like you said, for Bitcoin over the past few years has been about 50%. Can it stay close to there, or does it shrink on average? I mean, we could have one year where it's up 300, 400, 500% or more, and then that kind of throws off the future returns, right? It makes them look like insane. But yeah, we'll see. And from the demand side, yeah, I mean, we've seen the ETFs, and I've got the ETF flows chart pulled up here. I put a 7-day average on it to kind of smoothen it out a little bit. And you can see these flows. We've got more capital coming in at a strong rate, actually almost comparable with what we saw when they first launched back here in January going into February. So yeah, I mean, and we've got Nikki in chat. Nick, I know you're kind of in here. If you want to mention anything, if you want to come on the mic and talk about the demand from the advisor side, feel free. For anybody that doesn't, Nikki is a financial advisor now and has been working with a lot of crypto whales, because no financial advisors want to work with rich crypto people because they think they're insane. But even though their returns are better than almost every damn advisor out there.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on your channel. And yeah, you're right. A lot of advisors basically have been pretty negative on Bitcoin investors. They say a lot of really nasty things. I've seen it within just advisors speaking amongst advisors, and I've also seen it, publicly. So it's been interesting. And a lot of advisors are going to miss out on great opportunities to serve amazing clients that are making a lot of money in Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is very obviously, from my experience working with clients, generating a lot of wealth for people very quickly. In terms of when we think about the S&P 500 or investing in stocks, that's kind of a little bit more of a slower burn generally. But Bitcoin has been creating wealth very fast for individuals. So it's really important for the advisor community to open up. And I think it's starting with the Bitcoin ETFs. If BlackRock is supporting Bitcoin and creating ETFs, advisors are eventually, going to either be convinced by BlackRock that they need to add it to client portfolios for better risk-adjusted returns, or they're going to have clients requesting it and they're just going to have no choice. So I think that the Bitcoin ETF train is just starting. And I know we just got the approvals, but as far as adoption goes amongst advisor communities that have a lot of wealth to allocate to it, I think that train is just in the very beginning stages. Personally, I know that my clients have come to me wanting the Bitcoin ETFs in addition to their spot holdings that they have on their wallets and stuff. So just because somebody owns Bitcoin on a wallet, spot, doesn't mean they're not going to want some access via tax deferred or tax advantage accounts through ETFs. That's what I'm finding. They want both.
Yeah, good point, Nick. I mean, like you said, Bitcoin's created a lot of wealth for people. And I know you've seen this kind of firsthand, like just the arrogance of TradFi advisors. Do you think some of the advisors are starting to wisen up, or are they like digging their heels in, just still being anti-Bitcoin and anti-crypto asset class?
They're digging their heels in. There's a small percentage, very, very small, tiny percentage of people like me that are working with clients that own Bitcoin themselves and support their clients owning Bitcoin, including concentrated positions in Bitcoin. Because that's really the challenge with this community, right? It's that most people, they believe in Bitcoin so much that they want to hold the majority of their wealth in Bitcoin. And for traditional finance, that is just not okay. And so there's a very, very small percentage of advisors that are actually willing to work with clients and give them what they want there. So it's still people digging in their heels saying that it's gambling. I've just seen horrendous comments from advisors, and I'm wondering how they're even in business with that attitude. Personally, it's the best performing asset. What does Bitcoin need to do? It's compounding at crazy, CAGR levels. It's the best performing asset class over the past decade. What more do people need from here to actually say, hey, yeah, maybe even a small allocation makes sense?
And at what point are they failing their job as a fiduciary by being anti the best performing asset class?
I actually tweeted this exact thing. I tweeted this exact statement that at some point, just as not putting someone with an aggressive risk tolerance in stocks, if you fail to put an aggressive risk taker in equities, you are failing them as a client. Just as we would never even imagine not putting equities in a portfolio, eventually I think that's going to happen with Bitcoin, where it becomes irresponsible to not put them in Bitcoin at some allocation percentage, even if it's small, right? Because of how the returns have panned out and the risk-adjusted returns. So I do think that that's eventually going to happen, where it will be an issue that an advisor doesn't put some of their capital in Bitcoin at some point. I don't know when that's going to be, but I can see
good points, Nick. I appreciate you chiming in as always. And guys, if you want to get in touch with Nick, you can go to shetalksfinance.com, or for those of you in the wealth building community, you have access to her in Discord. And I know a lot of you guys have already chosen her as your financial advisor. So if you're doing that, great. Let's go ahead and jump into some charts. TD, what do you think?
Let's do it.
So, I guess the markets are just a little slow and boring today. There's not really much to talk about.
I saw some comments in chat though that said we can't jinx it.
Yes, exactly. We'll talk about the shit coinery. We'll just talk about some altcoins. We'll forget the Mac Daddy. Actually, okay, let's do this before we get into charts. I see we've had a lot of people joining us in the last few minutes. If you haven't already, please give the like button a little tappy tap so the algorithm still knows I'm on YouTube. I know it's kind of forgotten about me because I don't really post that much on YouTube anymore, but I still enjoy it. And if Roaring Kitty can get 500,000 people for a pump and dump. Hopefully we can get at least a small percentage of that for some legit stuff. So let's see. We've got some questions coming in. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in chat as well. We'll be looking at Discord and the YouTube comments here. But let's jump over and talk about what the hell is happening today. So let's see. Where should we even begin? Let's do this. So I'm going to treat this kind of like one of our regular market update classes in the wealth building community. What I like to do is kind of start by looking at my large time frames. So, I've been tweeting this for the past couple of months, but most recently, talking about how all the time frames have been pointing to the upside, and everything has shifted from, just consolidation to looking more and more bullish over the last few weeks. And what we know, looking at the largest time frame, this is like looking at Earth from the International Space Station. Bitcoin loves to move from major area to major area on the yearly or the 12-month chart. It doesn't happen immediately. It can take months for price action to move to these areas, but these areas act as magnets. And you can see that once we broke up above the 45K zone, we have worked our way back up to the prior all-time high zone around 70K. And then going down from the yearly chart, when we look at a monthly chart, this is probably one of the clearest charts right now of what's happening. What you can see is from the last market cycle, price action was not able to close on the monthly chart above this 60K resistance, right? We had a couple of spikes, but things got sold into these areas, right? Price action got sold into this area. And, you could say that this double top was a function of what FTX was doing. There's some evidence for that. There was also a bull trap here at the top. But if you look at what's happening most recently, you can see the same area for the past 7 or 8 months has turned, 60K has turned from resistance back here a couple of years ago to support now. We've been basically stair-stepping down, but on the monthly chart, these are all wicks. So the majority of the price action is actually trading above this 60K zone, right? So 60K has been the line in the sand. Now, if we go down and get even a little more detail here, let me try to put this stand up. I'm tired of holding this damn thing. If we look at the weekly chart here, oh, no, that's daily. If we go over here to the weekly, you can get even more detail. And what we have here, this is basically a big bull flag. And the ETF approval was in here. We had a little bit of volatility, but this was actually the largest and most significant move in Bitcoin's history. Why? Well, it was the first time that we had 7 green months in a row. Is that right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 green months in a row from the 25K to 70K zone. And there was a little pause here on the weekly where that ETF was. But as far as the amount of liquidity coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem, this was the largest and fastest and most significant upside move that we've seen. And as you guys know in the community, I was saying up here on 70, I'm like, guys, this type of bullish action is unsustainable. We need a pullback for healthy price action. And so if we pull up a Fibonacci retracement from the start of this run to that pivot high, you can see what price action did is it stair-stepped down first to the 23% retracement, then to the 38, and then it tagged almost on the nose here in early August, the 50% retracement, and then from there started making higher lows. So that was the first indication that, hey, the retracement and the stair-stepping down might be over. Okay. And then as you saw, we started to, a couple weeks ago, actually break above this bull flag that we've been talking about for the past few months. So going down into the daily chart, right? One thing that we talked about last month was the moving average consolidation area here around 60. How we knew 60 was kind of the line in the sand from the monthly, but it was also the 100 and the 50 period moving average support zone. And that's why I started to add in back here again and, really build into my long positions in anticipation of this rounding pattern to actually continue. So what we saw over the last couple of weeks is we saw this run to retest 70 for a double top here, a low volume pullback, and then basically on the most immediate time frame, a little bull flag here. And then yesterday is when things really started to accelerate. And then if we zoom in intraday, so the 1 hour chart is typically the smallest time frame that I look at. You can see yesterday what happened. Last night, I was like, oh man, please don't break out overnight. I need some sleep. And around 8 or 9 o'clock, we started to snap, and then we got that little pop stop run. So this was that 70K resistance break. So basically any large short sellers, anybody that had large shorts on, more than likely had buy stop orders back here above 70. And so if you watch the order book at these really important price levels, what you'll see sometimes is like buying begets more buying. So you'll see like sitting at 70K, you might see some massive like sell orders. And that could be shorts like trying to scare bulls away. But as bulls start to hit the ask, as you start to see those massive ask limit orders get eaten away, maybe there's a couple hundred Bitcoin, then it goes down to a couple dozen Bitcoin, and then price action eats that, and you see that on high volume. That indicates a quote unquote real breakout. So that's what we saw last night was bears couldn't maintain any shorts that were hoping for lower highs. They got run over. And then from that point, that's where it was very clear that we were moving from major zone at 70K to we had open air to this next area, which is the all-time high. And that's why, basically we had a breakout last night, and then overnight, US time, that's typically when it's lower volume and much slower. Right here on market open, we saw the buying continue again. And again, this is what Bitcoin really likes to do, is trade from major area to major area. So as a trader yourself, if you try to identify those large areas and you don't get overly obsessed with small time frames and you just trade off of those big areas, you're going to have, it's going to be like, floating with the current, as opposed to trying to swim upriver. Like people that were like shorting intraday today, it's like, okay, I guess we need people on the other sides of our trades, but you're going against momentum, right? And I know a lot of traders love to do that for some reason, but let price action be your friend. I hate the damn cliche, but it's true. Let the trend be your friend, right? And let momentum be on the right side of the market, right? That's the way that you do that. So, Trav, any thoughts?
No, I mean, one interesting thing that I wanted to mention was earlier in the year, actually not that long ago, I think late summer, I'd crunched some data on Bitcoin hourly data for.
You want to share that with me, and I can pull it up on.
Yeah, let's see if we can share this bad boy. And,
yeah. Anybody
get this going?
Do you want people to be able to see this? Like pull up the link?
Sure, you can.
Okay.
It's nothing.
I'll share the link in chat with you guys.
Yeah, it's nothing too groundbreaking, but this data that I pulled, this was data that looked at the hourly performance of Bitcoin through 2024 year to date, and I think this was through like August, so it needs to be updated. But one of the interesting things that I wasn't expecting to see was that there were some times of day when Bitcoin's returns tended to be better than others. And so the thinking here was, okay, is a certain part of the world driving Bitcoin's returns more than others? Like, is trading in Asia or trading in European hours, or is trading in the US hours creating more of a push for Bitcoin, based on the hour of the day? And so it's hard to draw a ton of conclusions from this, but what I did see is that there definitely seem to be some days and some times of day where Bitcoin would tend to perform a little bit better than average. And so the evening hours in the US actually were some of the best performing times, at least again, through the first 8 or 9 months of this year. We'll have to update this for October as well when we get all the data in. But it was interesting to see that, you know, one of the best times was actually like early evening. And that would also coincide with kind of the morning hours in Asia.
So so median hour, so like 0 is midnight, and then like noon is noon.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So you're saying like what through here?
Yeah.
The best return.
Yeah.
Evening.
Yeah, and some of the worst returns that we see are, you know, around middle of the night US.
Yeah.
So like, you know, 2, 3 in the morning, and then also kind of post lunch or right around lunch, and I would say early post lunch also tended to be fairly poor, at least on certain days, like particularly at the start of the week.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting because, you know, again, these are, you know, you can see that these numbers may not even be that statistically significant in some cases, but for sure, like there definitely seemed to be some patterns around middle of the week and evening hours that tended to stick out. And so I thought that was interesting just from, you know, as we look here at kind of Bitcoin intraday and like what it might do. You know, we could see things like stall out, you know, midday here as people go to lunch. And maybe there's also potentially some pause in institutional buying that happens now that we've got institutional ETFs, things like that. There are times a day, even in stocks, where we see what we see often in stocks is the highest volume tends to cluster around market open and market close, which tends to be, you know, 8, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then also, you know, around 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's, I think, also having an effect on Bitcoin potentially as well, with the slowness in the middle of the day that we see in stocks. I think also tends to show up here in slowness in Bitcoin, middle of the day, early afternoon, as people get, I guess, a little sleepy and, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I know, like whenever I was day trading the stock indices, it would be like the first hour and a half of the day would be active, and then we'd take some time off, and then kind of like the mid afternoon after lunch until about 3:30, things would be rocking. But if we actually look intraday here on the hourly, I mean, you can see basically from market open through now, I mean, it's been green every hour. It's been sustained volume. This is what I mean when I say like Bitcoin likes to run from key area to key area, and it doesn't always do it in a straight shot. But right now, I mean, it's kind of just trucking along. Let's check in with stonks. Actually, one thing that I've been doing is I've been looking at the correlation between stocks and the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ, you know, a little higher vol than the S&P because it's, you know, obviously more tech. But the correlation coefficient down here, this basically shows if Bitcoin and stocks are generally on average correlated or inversely correlated. So the most correlated they could be is 1 up here on the green. The least correlated they could be is inversely correlated at -1, and then 0 doesn't matter. So I put like a 30 period moving average on this, and you can see for the first quarter of the year, they were correlated. Through the summer, they were a little inversely correlated. And then up here through the fall, they've been pretty correlated as well. And really it was from, if you guys remember that like Japanese panic, this was the pivot low and the washout that tagged the 50 period or the 50% fib retracement on Bitcoin. And that was also the low in stocks. So what do we say all the time in the wealth building community about, you know, the times where there is peak panic or peak euphoria? Those are often very key market pivot points, right? It's like the COVID panic when we were buying Bitcoin in the 3 and 4K range, or I mean, going back, hell, even to 2015 at 188 when we were in the room buying Bitcoin below 200. Like you look for these extreme moments, and those are oftentimes the best times to buy. And anytime I see Bitcoin and stocks kind of washing out together, that's when I'm like, ooh, things are about to get juicy. So that's the correlation that I've been paying attention to here. What I'm wondering is like, hey, what if we get inversely correlated where like Bitcoin breaks out and then like stocks just stay flat through the election? Maybe that could be a new trend that we look for. Also, I want to give you guys a comparison of and an example of like why I've been bullish on Bitcoin from a TA standpoint. Obviously, you know, as I've been saying and beating this dead horse, that, you know, all the time frames recently lined up to be bullish, but an example of a similar pattern to this. Okay, so look at this rounding pattern, all-time high resistance, moving average support. So this is a daily chart on Bitcoin. If you look at a weekly chart on gold, because gold trades a lot slower, and even though it's up quite a bit this year, the returns are lower because it's slower and it takes, you know, a lot longer for these gains to play out in gold. But if you look at this kind of similar, I mean, this is an even larger price pattern here, this cup and handle. But if you look at this most recent rounding pattern going back to 2020, and you look right here, okay, so see this move. Let me remove this little drawing tool. But you see this move off of the moving averages. Imagine that this move and this leg up right here is what we're seeing on the Bitcoin daily right now. Okay. So do you guys see that similarity there, that rounding pattern and that moving average support? I think something very similar is playing out right now. So will we get some volatility around the all-time high? I think so. You know, it's very rare that Bitcoin just gets to an all-time high and then like breaks through it right away. That certainly could happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see, you know, some shakeouts, maybe another pullback, some volatility. I mean, shit, we have the election in 1 week. Who knows? I mean, that could definitely throw some stop runs and just some spikes in price action there. Trav, what's your take on this whole election and how it's going to play out? Are you bullish in either case? Are you bearish? Is you know, the Trump premium a real thing? What do you have any predictions on the election?
Yeah, so I think it's one thing I'll point out is that the markets are increasingly pricing a Trump win. That is evident in a bunch of different Trump-related stocks like DJT, also like the Fannie Mae preferred stocks and the Fannie Mae common stock. You know, just certain sectors that appear to be going higher. Even crypto, you could say, might have a little bit of a Trump premium priced in right now. However, I think the markets may be a little bit aggressive and early on that. You know, we are seeing that Trump appears to have a slight lead in some of the battleground states, but it's still so close to 50-50 that I don't think, you know, you can rule out that, or I don't think you can say that he's a clear winner yet. You know, there's just funky things that can happen on election day. We don't know how the turnout might be different with early voting versus regular voting. There are still events and things that could change independent voters' minds in the next 7 days. I don't know how anyone is independent at this point, but apparently those people still exist. And, you know, I do think it's so close still to 50-50 that markets may be getting ahead of themselves in pricing that Trump win. So the concern there, of course, is that if you do have a surprise, which is exactly what happened, say, in the 2016 election, what could happen is we could have markets sell off, you know, particularly stocks and crypto could sell off initially if we do get a surprise shift in the voting patterns, or, you know, if Kamala starts to take the lead, or if there's a potential scenario where we don't know the winner of the election for days or weeks. That could potentially throw more uncertainty in the markets as well.
I think that would probably be like the worst outcome, right? Is
yeah.
Like if it's so close and it's highly contested, and then, you know, because markets don't like uncertainty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, you know, I think I you know, I don't necessarily want to buy a ton of Kamala positions, you know, like I'm not buying aggressively like calls on alternative energy or EV stocks, for instance, which would probably benefit under her administration. But I do think it's worth thinking about if you're overexposed, or certainly if you're using leverage, like the potential for things to pull back if we do get a surprise shift in the narrative of who's going to win this election. So that's mainly what I'm focused on. I'm not really, you know, rooting. You know, I'm not really trying to share my political beliefs. It's really just as an investor, how is this going to impact markets? How is this going to impact, you know, what we do on a day-to-day basis, and where do the mispricings lie today?
Yeah. It's weird that, you know, this is like the first election cycle where Bitcoin actually became like a partisan issue. So it is kind of strange and unfortunate that the Dems took such an anti-crypto stake. But I saw even today Elizabeth Warren on a debate stage saying, okay, if you want to trade your cryptos, go, I'm for it, whatever. So maybe they're walking that back. But let's see. I'm just looking at chat here, guys. Yeah, thanks for all the thumbs up. Don't forget to like this. We're trying to get the algorithm to actually give a shit about my channel again. Because I'm so inconsistent. I do like everything wrong when it comes to social media. But I don't know. I just try to add value. So outside of that, hey, Truck Boy, what's up, man? So for you guys that don't know, we did a wealth building retreat in Austin last month, and Truck Boy brought us some very beautiful silver. That was very kind of you, man. Let's talk about the portfolios. Travis, how's your portfolio performing? The new 100K one. Has it moved at all yet? I know you just set it up.
It was like basically flat as of yesterday. I think briefly I looked this morning and it might have been down slightly, but yeah, I'm 94% cash in that portfolio still. So I'm going to be investing it over the next couple of months as we get more fully invested there. But yeah, I'm trying to be thoughtful about how I add positions. I didn't want to just, go full on right away into a ton of positions without thinking through some of those decisions, because I also want, people to understand the decision making there. So yeah, so I'm taking a little time to get that portfolio fully invested. But yeah, the goal, of course, overall is to try to beat the S&P with less volatility. And that's a hard thing to do. But, if I can compound that thing at 15 to 20% annually with not a ton of volatility, that will work out very well over time. And obviously, if I can hit higher numbers than that, even better. But, that's the overall overarching goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take a look at my portfolios on the $1 Million Challenge. So this is a screenshot of the, it's like a little over 18 Bitcoin that I started the challenge with because I wanted to get it as close as possible to this starting portfolio with the stock portfolio. So this week, the stock portfolio is down like 0.25%, basically flat. And then this week we're up a little over 100K or about 8% on this with the Bitcoin breakout. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's my last video on YouTube where I'm going to be doing, basically tracking a stock versus crypto portfolio, which one can grow the most efficiently over time. So,
hey, should we talk a little bit about the evolution of the daily dough? I know someone had asked about it, or should we save that for another time?
Yeah, we could just say okay, so for anybody that's been reading the Daily Dough, we obviously stopped doing it because we're going to be doing something else. And those details are coming out. But we took a lot of feedback that we got from you guys on the Daily Dough. And yeah, we're going to do something similar but different and make it better.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, what questions do you guys have? Feel free to throw some Q&A in. We'll keep watching price action here. What is it? Coming up on 2 Eastern. So we've got kind of that, coming out of the lunch break lull as far as price action goes. We've got the NASDAQ, which is actually testing multi-week resistance here. What do we have as far as earnings? I know this afternoon is really when things start to get interesting, right? Trav, what are you looking forward to? And what do you think could actually move these markets the most?
Great question. Yeah, great question. So the big techs have actually been leading over the last week or so, but they've got a pretty high hurdle rate going into earnings. A lot of these stocks are, at pretty high levels, in some cases, all-time highs headed into earnings. Now we have Google after hours today, which is one that doesn't match that pattern. Google has not been the strongest of the Mag 7. Its stock has been, basically chopping around and slightly down over the last couple of months. So it's heading into its earnings with lower expectations overall. I think people are also a little bit concerned about, longer term threats from AI. I expect Google's earnings to still be quite strong. In the past few quarters, they've been focusing on improving margins and just kind of continuing to let that operating leverage play out. So Google, I think the earnings hopefully, and I expect them to be fine and basically in line with what we've seen over the last couple of quarters, which is pretty solid growth on the bottom line. Top line growth, decent. Bottom line growth, even better. And, whether or not the market rewards that with, a pop after hours, we'll have to see. But yeah, I think Google's one that at least going into the earnings report, it doesn't, its stock chart is not at all-time highs. And so there's a little bit of room there for Google to go higher, I think. Some of those others, Apple, near all-time highs headed into earnings later this week. Microsoft, same deal. You still got all that AI hype built into these stocks. So I think you got to be a little bit careful. But yeah, I think the big techs are going to be the focus, just given their heavy weight in the indices. We've got 5 of them reporting this week. And then, I also like to tune into a couple of the others. Like this afternoon, we've also got Visa. Visa will be a great read on what's happening with the overall economy. Like to listen to what they have to say. And then we've got some smaller stocks as well.
Sweet, man. Yeah. Huge day this afternoon. And then tomorrow, Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Thursday. So yeah, even if you don't trade stocks, guys, I think it's smart to know what's happening because as I showed, the correlation coefficient with stocks and Bitcoin is still huge. Talking about some alts, we've got Solana, which is one of the few tickers that's actually been holding up against Bitcoin. We've had like 95% of alts that have been bleeding out value to Bitcoin, which is why Bitcoin dominance is up around 60%. This is actually a new multi-year high. I made the case that I think Bitcoin dominance is going to eventually end up back in the low 70s or high 60s, somewhere up here. We've had meme coin madness this year. That's basically where a lot of the meme or a lot of the value creation in alts has been. And so if you want to bet on the casino, Solana and some of the other infrastructure around that. And then we've had some weird stuff happening with like AI created coins. You got Trump coin, which is coiling up. Who could have guessed that Andrew Tate's scam coin would actually be selling off? Shout out to CoffeeZilla for poking holes in that fraudster. But I actually put out a tweet the other day with kind of a recap of some ideas. Like if you're going to trade memes, what's the really, I think the right way to think about this. See if I can pull this up. Here we go. So for anybody that hasn't seen it, this guy Murad put out this thesis that like we're going to have some meme coin super cycle. And this is my take. Like, no matter what anybody says, whatever the story is, just remember that meme coins are a game of hot potato, and the last one holding loses. So if you're going to trade, but don't believe this bullshit of like you have to join some cult and stick around for years.
I agree, but it's also interesting to think about, his thesis that, there's going to be a certain select group, a small number of meme coins that build a kind of a cultish community, just like we've seen in stocks. I actually made a TradingView watch list of cult stocks recently. It includes a lot of the ones that you would think of, like your GMEs, but also some newer ones like your Palantirs and, some other ones that I would consider cult stocks. But yeah, I think the idea that there could be, some of these meme coins and communities that get a little bit more traction than others and kind of draw in the eyeballs, I think makes some sense. But, again, I don't think they're going to be long lasting. I wouldn't expect them to be around 10 years from now. But I do think in this cycle itself, some of these could attract, a lot more attention. There's kind of like a power law. And we've already seen that because some meme coins will trade as high as like, $2 billion market caps, while, 99.9% of the rest of the meme coins are, basically get rugged to zero. And so one thing though that I think he says that I still have questions around is like this idea of community, like how do you define that? Because with a lot of these meme coins, I really don't think there's a community. I mean, I see sometimes a Telegram channel or a Twitter account or a website, some comments on X or Twitter, but the idea that there's a community is I think I haven't quite seen that. So maybe we will see those develop further, I think that would be helpful to the meme coin super cycle. I also kind of wonder if he's, kind of shilling his own coins, frankly. Like
100%.
SPX, I don't get it. I don't see the community. It seems like it kind of sprang out of his own presentation. Like it's sort of, he keeps pushing it. I haven't seen an organic really look at what the meme coin communities that are out there and the pros and cons of each. I have not seen that from people like him.
Somebody told me that Zach XBT did some kind of coverage on that, saying he was basically, I don't know if that's true. If anybody has a link or something, feel free to post it in there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's what a lot of these influencers do, is they get into the game, they try to be like, an expert in a little niche, and then they pump their own bags. They either get paid from a group or from a coin or a project to do that, which is super shitty, or they're trading illiquid stuff and they're pumping dumping on their followers. I'm proud to say that I don't do any of that, right? Like, I think I've seen over the past decade hundreds of these guys come and go, the bit boys of the world, and even the shitcoin creators like Hex, whatever, like stuff like that will come and go, and it's very rare that you see influencers stick around for a long period of time. So I hope he does right by his people and he's not just pumping and dumping, because I thought his presentation was actually pretty spot on, actually admitting that there are cults and that can drive price action. So like, one thing I also added to this was like, if it seems ridiculous, there's probably something to it. Don't underestimate what like price can do and how the madness of crowds can drive price. So
yeah. And I do think there are signs, like even from past cycles with Doge and things like that, there are signs that there are organic cults that kind of develop around meme coins, and influencers may even be a part of that too. So I don't deny that that's a real thing. I just sometimes I think the idea of communities with these things are overblown. There are interesting signs of things happening though. Like I this week kind of discovered that they're starting DAOs that actually trade. They're like funds of meme coins in the Solana ecosystem now. And so that's becoming a new interesting dynamic. The AI coins, you mentioned that, there's some AI agents that are sort of doing this. Apparently they're doing it autonomously. Now, again, I'm skeptical that all these agents are actually acting autonomously. I think there's actually humans behind some of these AIs that claim to be autonomously buying tokens.
Like, oh, weird, look at this random thing making all this money.
Yeah. But then you pull in, traditional finance people like Mark Andreessen, and you do have some actual participation there. So there's real things there. Yeah. And today I was frankly, on Twitter shilling one of my bags, which I think actually, which I think actually does have
you shill
the Costco hot dog, man. Yeah.
Did you actually end up buying that?
Oh yeah, I own like $5,000 worth or whatever.
Oh my god, hang on, what's the ticker?
It's just cost. Yeah, it's cost sold.
What? Oh my god.
The reason that I like this one.
This is not financial advice.
Pull it up on Deck Screener. Pull it up on Deck Screener. I don't think that's the right ticker.
That's hilarious.
But as I was thinking through like Murad stuff, I'm like, okay, organic memes. So first of all, like Costco, the Costco hot dog thing. Yeah. It's already a meme, right? Like it's already a meme outside of crypto. The whole, Costco having the $1.50 hot dog for like 30 years, and it's like the fight against inflation, right?
I posted a picture of myself eating one last week.
Exactly. So you've got Costco stock, near all-time highs. You've got people still loving the $1.50 hot dog at Costco.
Yeah. I literally went there for like market research and ended up here and did buy the hot dog and the Coke.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's hilarious. Also, I found this out, but one of the fathers of the whole like warehouse model, his name is his name was Saul Price. Like that is just crazy to me. That's hilarious.
Like SOL.
Yes, right? SOL Price. The guy's name was Saul Price. And if you Google him, he's basically, he created one of the predecessors to Costco that Costco ended up acquiring. And so I think it was like in the 50s or 60s. He was one of the founders of like the warehouse model that Costco adheres to. And so the fact that there's a guy named Saul Price, who's like one of the godfathers, it's like, what? So I don't know. That to me was just like one of these funny things. And the whole idea that they could send the coin to like $1.50, which it probably doesn't get there. I think that's like a $1.5 billion or $2 billion market cap. So that'd be like one of the top meme coins. But you know, if it got there, it'd be like 100x from here. So
Trav, I just got to say, man, I am so proud of you, dude. You went from being a legitimate billion-dollar hedge fund investor to a shitcoin, meme coin, degen, pumping your bags on a live stream. Oh, man. Guys, give Trav a like in the live stream.
Hey,
I love it, dude.
listen,
You've come full circle.
Hey, you know, hey, I have always been someone who, you know, just loves trading opportunity. It doesn't matter what asset class. We were talking about Bitcoin back in 2012, you know, talking about potential price targets. I think I said in our first email, like, I was like running back the envelope math. I was like, I think blue sky scenario, you know, if everything goes right for Bitcoin someday, maybe it could be 100K. And now, like, we're probably going to break that easily the next year. But
man, yeah, those early days were funny. I remember like talking to Rocky too, like in our live market updates being like, when it was at 1,000, I was like, man, can you imagine what life would be like if we hit 10K? Like shit would just be bananas. And that's why I say, like, never underestimate what Bitcoin or just crypto in general can do, because it's a global market. People have an incessant desire to gamble. I mean, look at Robinhood this week. They're putting I think they're trying to launch the presidential debate betting markets on Robinhood.
yeah.
And like what was it? The states that made sports betting legal are seeing, like, I could be wrong, but I think it's like 2 or 3 times the capital flow in betting than in the stock market now, which is not necessarily a good thing, but
no, it's wild. I think my wife watches that show, Love is Blind, and there was like a hilarious argument between two of the people on there where the woman was like, yeah, do you invest in stocks? And he's like, what? No, I do sports. And it's like, stocks, can't you lose money in stocks? It's like, oh man, there's still a lot of people out there that obviously, like, you know, don't really understand the fundamentals of what it means to invest in an asset class like stocks, right? But
that's my biggest thing with crypto people. I'm like, guys, like, stocks are not bad. Like, you know, if you want to own quality assets, yes, Bitcoin, but also yes, to own a piece of the best businesses in the world that have amazing cash flows. Like, that is not a bad thing. And we do have high inflation. Those companies are going to benefit from that. Like, so.
One other interesting dynamic, did you see that, you know, there are a couple other countries and organizations just this week that I saw were adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So a couple of college endowments recently added Bitcoin to their investment portfolios. And then also, was it the country of Bhutan?
Yeah, Bhutan's been stacking sats. I went there in 2011 to do a trek through the Himalayas, and like, those people are just incredible, man. Like, really, really cool space. And I know their king or leader, whatever they call him, is a young dude. And yeah, probably forward thinking.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of institutional adoption and sovereign adoption that can happen, you know, in the next few years there, which is still a dynamic that we talked about, I think, in 2019 originally. And again, it was kind of like what if this happens? And now it's actually happening, and it still could have a long way to go. Hey, I did want to ask you there. I saw a couple of questions in chat about like exit strategy and how you think about when to take profits in this type of a cycle. And, you know, if you're expecting to exit most of your Bitcoin position, like as the cycle turns at some point, or how do you think about that?
Let me pull up this little presentation thing where I can talk about like capital buckets and try to answer that, because I know that is a common question where people are like, you know, where are we in the cycle, you know? And so I think about this, and that's a good question. So like, got a question. It looks like Armad pulled up here. Where do you think we are currently positioned in this crypto market cycle? The environment doesn't feel as defined as past cycles, and there doesn't seem to be a defined theme either. Interesting. Well, okay, here, let's do this. Let's zoom out and let's look at some ideas here. But, you know, when I look at my crypto capital buckets, I've got my HODL, you know, which is like Bitcoin that I put on a hardware wallet and never touch. I've got my cycle trades where I like buy in bear markets and sell during bull markets. I've got swing trades where, you know, they have predefined risk to reward. I get in and out. Occasionally I'll take a day trade, but not very often. And then I've got like some startup investing capital. And then I have different strategies, right? Like DCA, bull market setups, altcoin momentum, volatility scalping, right? So for me, the way that I think about risk management, it all depends on what capital bucket we're talking about, right? So right now I'm not DCAing, right? I jack up my DCA in bear markets, and then up here around all-time highs, I'm basically trading. So I'll like buy breakouts, I'll buy dips, and then I'll take profit into measured moves. So like an example of that, and another question that is kind of related to that is look at MicroStrategy today. Does it move opposite to Bitcoin? Well, so yeah, let's also talk about MicroStrategy. This is an example of a trade, right? Like I didn't buy MicroStrategy to quote unquote invest in this company. I just took a breakout trade at 200, had my first profit target here at 250. I still haven't sold any, but what I do is I use measured moves and fib extensions to come up with future profit targets. And I generally like to scale out. So because Bitcoin's been testing this all-time high, and I think we have, future momentum. I haven't taken any profit on MicroStrategy, but this is an example of like one where I get in and I have defined risk, and then I take profit, or if it doesn't work, I take a stop loss and get out pretty quickly. So I also do that in Bitcoin, and I do have a Bitcoin long on as well that I've been buying through here. And by the way, I just want to say kudos to anybody who's actually been buying Bitcoin throughout the last 6 or 8 months, because it's been a damn shop fest. It's been very difficult to really have any kind of strategy when price action looks like a spaghetti like this, so I had a long that I took a little loss on. I even did a short hedge that I closed out. So I didn't get chopped up too bad, but I definitely lost a little bit in there. But I'm up again on my latest long position.
I saw someone asked a little earlier if you were buying this particular breakout, if you're adding any here.
Yeah. So I've still got some cash, but I've added, and I'm looking for future bull market setups. So yeah, bought there, scaled some more. I've got some cash for, another all-time high break. Basically, for you guys in the community, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout pattern, anything like that, or any nice dips when we're in bull mode. I like to take.
And sorry to switch gears again, but I did want to go back to MicroStrategy. I know a couple of people had asked about it. So one interesting thing that should be on everyone's radar who's involved in MicroStrategy this week is they report earnings tomorrow after the market closes. So that could have an effect on the stock outside of what's going on in the crypto cycle, of course. Now, I wouldn't expect anything too surprising, but we'll probably get some bullish comments from Michael Saylor on BTC price action. We'll probably get maybe some comments that they're, still looking to aggressively acquire more Bitcoin. I would certainly expect that. They're going to talk about their very high Bitcoin yield metric that they've got going this year. And it's interesting though, because right now MicroStrategy is trading for, I think, close to almost 3 times the net value of its Bitcoin holdings on its balance sheet. So if you take basically the value of its Bitcoin that it has today, and you net out the debt that they've taken out to buy some of that, then that net asset value, and you could even add in some value for the existing software business, although that's relatively small now relative to the Bitcoin holdings. But if you add all that up and you net out the debt, the net asset value of the Bitcoin is only about 1/3 of what the market cap of the company is today. And so there's an argument why we see such high short interest in the stock is there are a lot of people that are kind of trying to arbitrage this, where they're shorting MicroStrategy stock against a long Bitcoin position. Of course, that's been kind of a disaster trade, because even though MicroStrategy does trade at this massive premium to the value of its Bitcoin holdings, it has not really gone down. In fact, it's only expanded. So that premium has only expanded into the current cycle. And so that's, the question is, will it ever collapse? Will the premium collapse? Probably at some point, maybe in the next bear cycle. But, right now it's kind of suicide to try to bet that that's going to close, ASAP.
Do you have any kind of way to try to find like what a ceiling for the multiple could be on the NAV? Like I saw somebody who on Twitter claimed he worked in the institutional real estate space, and he was talking about how they value like REITs and stuff like that. Do you think that's a valid comparison, or is there another way to think about it?
Yeah, I didn't think that was a valid comparison. You had sent me that analysis, and he was saying like, oh, MicroStrategy could trade, up to like 8 to 10 times the net asset value, because in a lot of REITs, what you'll see is often the market cap of the REITs will end up at, sometimes even as high as like 10 times the value of the real estate on its balance sheet. The problem with that is that the real estate on the balance sheets of a lot of these REITs does not get valued at market value. There are a bunch of different accounting rules around how the assets get valued, but in many cases, real estate values don't get marked to market. So that's why you can have something trading at a very high multiple and it still might make sense. And oftentimes what we like to use for REITs valuation wise is not a multiple to the balance sheet value of the real estate, but like a price to the income that the real estate generates per year. So a price to FFO multiple is what we might use. We don't really have that for MicroStrategy because there is no income being generated from the Bitcoin. But I will make the point, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin does get marked to market. So I would not expect MicroStrategy, at least in a fundamentally driven scenario, to be trading up to like 10 times net asset value like a REIT would, because again, it's assets are marked to market and a REITs are not typically. So that's the difference there.
Okay, so tell us the multiple.
But yeah, there's really no theoretical ceiling to where that multiple can go in the short run. There really isn't. So it's hard to come up with a model for that. Now, it's funny to think about because the premium that MicroStrategy trades at to its net asset value actually allows it to then acquire more Bitcoin and kind of arbitrage its own premium. So what they do is they can sell stock at this high premium level, acquire more Bitcoin, and it actually increases the net asset value of the Bitcoin. Now, you can only do that so many times for so long, probably. But what that number is, I don't know. Maybe there's some like, circular calculation we could try to run in a spreadsheet to try to find out how much that they could do. But ultimately, the market can send this thing to the moon, and in the short run, and that's why it's kind of dangerous in a Bitcoin bull market to bet against that premium collapsing.
Gotcha. And then do you want to use like IEP as an example of like
yes,
what this could do? Like the weird upside potential. Like why would people pay a premium for MicroStrategy, and what could go nuts, right? Like look at this. Oh, look, we got a bunch of scam bots hitting us.
Oh,
Bellstroy. Let's short the shit out of that scam.
Short it. Yeah, but you make
a bunch of Russian bots here. Let me try to block that keyword. Okay, but in the meantime, you can talk.
In the meantime, you bring up a great point, which is, on the stock side, we have a number of examples of companies that have traded at kind of irrational premiums to the value of their assets. And Icon Enterprises is one example. For many years, IEP, Icon Enterprises, Icon is Carl Icahn. This is Carl Icahn's vehicle, publicly traded vehicle for acquiring different businesses. And so over time, he's acquired different businesses, sometimes takes an activist position, and will take majority stakes in some businesses. And so Icon Enterprises is his holding company. It's also publicly traded, but in the past, for years at a time, it would trade at massive premiums to the value of the actual assets that Icon Enterprises holds. And so, yeah, people tried to short it and got crushed, and the stock would go parabolic for years at a time. And then, eventually, like some bad news came out with a couple of its holdings, and there were some technical factors that led to a collapse, like an 80% collapse in the price of IEP just in the past year or two. And so that shows you both the upside and the downside potential of these situations that kind of get irrational, where you can trade at a massive premium to the value of the assets, and then you can have a very fast elevator down when the market kind of loses confidence, or there becomes some issue with one of the assets or multiple assets in that portfolio. You can see that IEP took a nosedive there. So that is what could happen to MicroStrategy in a bear market.
Cool. I've been over here fighting these damn bots. Some Russian scammers came in here and tried to take over, but let's see. I think the words have been blocked. Let's see if that'll work. Sorry, guys. Isn't that annoying? All right. Let's see what else. Let's take a look back at Bitcoin. Hopefully we put a cap on the scammers coming in here. Boom. All right. Cool. I had to open the chart as well. Okay, so we're coming up a couple hours prior to market close. Let's see, we've got some sustained momentum through the day. Going intraday, we have one little kind of doji candle, big run throughout the first half of the day, a little bit of a pause. The question is, Trav, are we going to get a run to new all-time highs today? What do you think? Is it going to happen?
I think it'll happen. I just don't know if it'll happen in U.S. market hours.
We are about 1% from all-time highs.
Maybe Sailor will give us the final thrust.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we got scam bot bombed in the chat here. It doesn't look like YouTube. This is why I don't even try anymore. Like, if YouTube can't fight that shit and like they don't try to, I mean, that's obviously a scam bot. Like, if they can't eliminate that, why do I have to try to fight that? So annoying. But yeah, if we missed any questions, feel free to throw them in there.
Repost your burning questions if you're not a scam bot.
Yeah. Let's see. Stevie B, what do you think of the theory of smaller bear market pullbacks because of the hedge fund, et cetera, buying now? Yeah, I mean, we've seen volatility shrink kind of on average year over year. And now that we have ETFs and just more liquidity, yeah, I think the days of us waking up and seeing 30, 40, 50% drops in a single day, I think that's over. Yeah, I mean, the more liquidity, the tighter the order book gets. So in a way, that's a good thing. We doing anything for Halloween? I'm flying. I don't know. What are you doing?
Might do a little friends and family time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet up with some friends, some family friends, and just do some casual chill time.
Just
Nothing
chill.
crazy.
Cool.
My days of crazy Halloweens are probably behind me.
Oh man, let's stay young forever.
Yeah.
I want to go trick or treating.
There's Nick. You could probably get away with it.
No, not weird at all. Honestly.
No. I don't know.
Hey, what's the deal? Okay, I don't know if this is just spam or whatever, but a couple people asked about SUI, SUI.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that name pop up like over the past few months, I would say.
Yeah, we've traded it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I remember you guys talking about it in one of the market updates. What is that for us TardFis?
So let me just say this. When it comes to any coin, any altcoin, I don't get fundamental. So I don't look at the story and say, oh, here's the idea. It's going to change the world. I just know that 99% of them are going to zero and some actually have utility. Mm-hmm. With that said, I then look at the chart. And so this is one that has a really big range. So it's, basically market support around 50 cents, structure resistance up here at a couple of bucks. This kind of reminds me of Link. So if we look at Link, this is one we traded a lot. It also in the earlier days had a big range from like $1.50 to $5. So the chart kind of reminds me of this. So I've had this one on watch. Where did it go? Yeah, this is actually on my short list of watchers right now. And I've been waiting for like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's bouncing off of the 50 period moving average on the daily chart today. So, will it get another breakout from here? We'll see. All-time high, or at least this pivot high, is at 235 or so. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I've also got a few others on watch. Monero, Aave is also getting a bounce off of the moving average. Arrow. I'm going to take this one off. But you know, I actually haven't even updated my screener in the last couple of days. I've just been so busy. But the main, you know, my biggest winner, my biggest position size is Bitcoin. The biggest, I'd say, change this market cycle is the shift from ETH to Solana. You know, Solana's just absolutely eaten ETH's lunch. And if you look at, let's just look at like an alt BTC chart. So if we take a look at ETH BTC, you can see this sucker's just been bleeding out for the entire bull market, right? The bull market got started here in the beginning of 2023, and ETH has just not been able to do anything. Where when you look at Sol, there was actually at the start of the bull market, actually like 6 months in, ETH, after Bitcoin started its bull market, Solana actually had alpha above Bitcoin, which is why we were trading it through here. This is what we want to look for. If we're going to take on the additional risk of holding an altcoin, we want it to perform better than Bitcoin, right? Otherwise, like, what's the purpose of holding something that has higher risk if you could just hold Bitcoin? So that's been kind of one of the better performers. I haven't traded a lot of memes this market cycle. I know in the community we have some guys that have done, and ladies that have done really well with memes, and also not so much NFTs. NFT volumes have fallen off a cliff, but even like ordinals and, you know, kind of like these sub niches. Yeah, I don't know what outside of like Costco coin or whatever. What have you been looking at?
My crypto strategy is a barbell between hodling Bitcoin and trading shit coins or meme coins. You know, it is funny. I'll give you just kind of the quick background for those who aren't familiar on the whole meme coin thing. You know, it's something that I did just sort of for fun as kind of I was curious about it, and I was also curious about Solana. So earlier in the year, I set up a wallet and kind of got into, you know, just playing around with a few of the meme coins on Solana. And I was impressed by the infrastructure on Solana, the DEXs, you know, just the speed of the chain and the transaction settlement. And then of course, you know, just kind of the funniness of like random meme coins. Like I saw, you know, a couple Twitter posts of a couple people who had apparently turned like $500 into like hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of these, you know, meme coins. And I was like, is this real? And, you know, I think for most people, that's not the type of outcome that they'll see. There are just a lot of shady things that happen in Solana meme coin world. There are a lot of bots. There are a lot of like sniper things that happen, you know, with some of these early listings. So there are a lot of traps out there. But, you know, I maybe I got a little lucky, but one of the early plays that I think, you know, people in the community know I took was I had an idea that early in the spring timeframe that Biden probably wasn't going to make it to the election for one reason or another. And so I had seen the popularity of the Bowden meme coin that had done so well. And I was like, okay, well, what if Bowden flames out? If Biden doesn't make it to the election and say Kamala, you know, actually becomes the nominee, then could her, you know, meme coin, which I think had a 1 million market cap at the time. It was like Kamala Horus, which obviously is a terrible name, but it was the KAM.
Is it still trading?
It's KAMA was the ticker on it. And so I think I threw a few $100, a few SOL into it. And I caught that big, you know, parabolic run, and I was selling all the way along the way. You could even go pull up my wallet and look at the transactions, but you know, it was basically like at one point a 30 or 35x on the original position.
How many millions did you put into it?
So the funny thing is, you know, I started with like, I think 1,000, and I may have even put a couple more SOL into the wallet. So it might have been like 1,500 at most of actual like USD that I put into the wallet initially. Oh, wow. And then today that wallet's sitting at about a 10x, so it's about a 15K in that wallet. On Comma. So Comma was a big portion of that. I also got lucky with GameStop, GME on Solana, because I'd bought some GME thinking, okay, you know, I'd actually had kind of a similar thesis as Murad early before he even published his thesis that they're going to be, you know, kind of a group of meme coins on Solana that could get pretty big, especially if we have a full-on alt cycle in crypto. And I was thinking, GameStop kind of has a tie to an old school meme. People are really rabid about GameStop. There's a whole like Reddit subthread, super stonk, like as a whole subreddit around GameStop. And what if, Roaring Kitty comes back and at some point, and of course that's what happened. Like, so GameStop, pumped along with the actual stock when Roaring Kitty came back and did his live stream. And so those were the two that had driven the kind of that 10x type of return off the initial cost basis. And I've also been rugged a lot. I've also like bought coins where like I was like, okay, I think I bought like Geo Rogan, and I bought like some really dumb ones like Pussy and Bio. That was like a meme for like 2 weeks. Yeah. That one went to zero. There was like some really dumb sounding ones like
that is what I love about meme coins is like you can take like $1,000 or $5,000 and then like, yeah, you fucking 10 or 50 exit and it's like, oh, actually that's kind of, a decent amount of money for playing some stupid shit. Like, yeah, I don't know. You got to be careful though. Like you said, man, you get rugged. I pulled this Twitter thread, or what are we calling these now? Are they like X post threads now? Like,
yeah, it's
very strange. So anyway, this guy picks on chain. Kudos. He or she or they wrote this thing. Talk to a person who made 2.4 million by launching meme coin farms. Here's how they scam you and how to avoid it. And I'll post this in chat for you guys. But basically, they went on to talk about like how they basically engineer these pump and dumps. I thought, things like this, it's just good to know. Man, half of my like posts are muted now because I mute so many people and so many words. Like anything that's annoying, I just want to like protect my experience on X because I like it so much. I get so much value. Like I have so many different lists of people and like different niches. So anyway, I have to like unmute things to actually read threads a lot of time, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
Definitely.
All right. What else should we cover? Oh, let's talk about the ETF chart. And looks like Tyler had a question. I'd love your take on a strategy that British Hodl mentioned for longtime holders. Instead of selling Bitcoin this bull run, by put options on IBIT as a way to protect profits. Yeah, we talk a lot about hedging strategies in the community. Okay, cool. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, I think we've both taken different types of hedging strategies at various times. Like, I'll do index shorts or stock index future shorts. I've done put spreads. I actually have a small put spread on now. In fact, you've been a big fan of the kind of outsourcing the non-correlated or the hedging assets like the CTAs, commodity trading advisors, managed futures funds. And those have done very well for you, particularly in bear markets. For other assets, the CTAs were doing quite well. So yeah, I mean, we take hedges from time to time. It's hard, when I think about hedging on the stock side, there have been times where I probably hedged too much because, the general direction of stock markets is up. So for me on the stock side, I have to be careful not to get swayed by all the bearish narratives that are constantly out there, because you could end up, chopping yourself up and costing yourself, lots of performance by hedging all the time for all these different things, right? Different wars, trade wars, geopolitical events, different hurricanes, whatever the thing may be, debt ceiling, there's always kind of something to worry about, right? And so I try to hedge at times when I think the market is sleeping, when it's like things are getting euphoric and maybe the market is like sleeping on big potential risks that are lurking around the corner. That's the times when I try to really put on some hedges for my portfolio. But it's tricky. And, I think looking for asymmetric hedges, you think about like, what Bill Ackman did, leading up into the early COVID timeframe where he turned, 10 million into 2 billion. Obviously we can't use the same type of instruments, but there are things like you could do like, VIX calls or S&P put spreads and things like that I think can be effective, but using them very sparingly. And then, also, we do a whole class on how to think about exposures and hedging and correlations in the portfolio that we could go deeper on. But
What do you think about specifically, I guess, to this question about like just using like long-term put options as a strategy over futures, like pros and cons, or do you typically?
Yeah, if you look at the math of that, unfortunately, it's tough to make that work. Like put options, just if you were to just consistently own put options, you would bleed out theta, and you would have a very big performance drag on your stock portfolio that probably would make a ton of sense. You know, people do that, but those tail hedging hedge funds, like, you know, they'll put up really big returns once a decade, but they bleed performance for 9 out of 10 years, and they actually end up with overall not great returns. So for most of them, of course, there's the one-offs that happen, like during the GFC, when you get like a Michael Burry type of fund, or like a James Paul or John Paulson, who, you know, just create generational wealth with one trade, and that can happen too. But those are such one-offs. I don't think you could like systematically figure out a way to do that, you know?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, talking about IBIT. So basically all of these ETF charts look very, very similar. They're all approaching, obviously their all-time highs, but this is what people that are trading or investing these ETFs, this is all they see, right? Like these things launched in early to mid-January, initially sold off and then broke out, right? This was like imagine if this is like an IPO and it busts and then it comes back and then breaks out. This is also, this correlates with that kind of 60K zone. So the fact that this opening and this resistance turned into support, I think is really important to point out too. And yeah, I mean, obviously the all-time high also lines up where Bitcoin's spot price all-time high is. And so, anybody that was trading or investing based on this chart, this is what they're seeing in addition to the spot and the futures charts. Actually, let's take a look at the CME futures today. Yeah, they're ticking. I don't know what the contract adjusted price would be, but says all-time high 74.4 or something. So we're getting close on the CME futures as well. Come on, baby. Let's see. We got an hour and a half until market close here in the US. But Trav, like you said, I mean, you saw data to suggest that the evening times are when there's the best gains. So probably as soon as we hit end on this, we'll rip to a new all-time.
That's right.
All right. What questions? Let's see. Audrey, Sui's great tech, works in different ways. Okay, cool. Yeah, and that's cool. Like I used to do a ton of fundamental research on alts and stuff. And you can certainly look at a lot of on-chain and off-chain metrics, which I think are helpful to know, like, is there a big unlock happening or what's the tokenomics? But at the end of the day, I think a lot of alt projects have the same, if not higher risk than like tech startups. So yeah, I just trade them, get in, get out, pull your money, put it to work. Taking a look at some other markets. Oil is actually selling off over the past few weeks. Rates, so the 10-year has actually popped quite a bit. Trav, do you want to talk to why this is pretty significant? I mean, if we zoom out, this kind of looks like it could be a head and shoulders. We're at a trend line. I know, interest rate TA isn't exactly the same, but what do you make of this little move up from like 3.6 to 4.3 or whatever on the 10-year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth paying attention to. Stocks are finally kind of waking up to it. There's a couple of reasons why I think this has happened or why it's continuing to happen. And that's because, we're actually seeing pretty good economic data over the last couple of months. I mean, GDP now for the third quarter suggesting that the US GDP is growing over 3%. We had, a strong unemployment report for the month of September. We get a new one on Friday for October. So that'll be interesting to watch. But the economic data generally in the US has been pretty good. We have all the other major central banks across the world, basically the ECB, the Bank of Canada, obviously the US central bank cutting rates. So it's leading to certainly a better economic setup and a more inflationary potential environment as, you know, consumer spending and borrowing can increase again. And so the concern though is longer term, you know, that creates higher inflationary pressures, even though we kind of see that inflation numbers this year have come down in the short run. Longer term, the market's still, I think, worried about the potential if the economy actually starts to overheat again, if fiscal deficits continue to run hot. You know, that's kind of the longer term concern. And that's why we see like the 10-year and the 30-year bond yields rising. I also think there's a component here of the market looking at the presidential situation and going, you know what, whether it's Trump or Kamala, we're probably looking at continued heavy fiscal deficits. And so long term, we need to be paid more for the risk of holding long-term government bonds in the US. And so I think that's part of it too. We famously heard, was it Druckenmiller went on CNBC last week and said he had been shorting bonds, meaning, you know, he's betting on yields to go up on the 10 and the 30-year. And frankly, because of that situation of the, you know, the heavy deficits continuing far into the future. And so, yeah, I think some of the holders are waking up and going, yeah, we need to be paid a higher risk premium for the risk that inflation remains hot and for the risk that fiscal spending continues to be heavy. And so I think it's a combination of those factors. I think it's a combination of the strong economic data. I think it's a combination of people wanting a higher risk premium. And I think, you know, a 4.5% 10-year or 30-year bond yield on its own at an absolute level doesn't scare me, but it's that trend, right? And so that's where the market starts to wake up a little bit as it keeps rising. And if it's rising at a rapid rate, if it gets back up to that 5% level, you know, potentially if it were to break through that point, then the market starts to worry, oh shit, now we've got an interest rate problem again. Yeah. Now we've got, you know, financial pressure on the economy coming from the bond market. So that's why we're watching it. And even though 4.5% isn't bad in its own right, it's that rate of change that we got to be worried about. And if it continues on this current path, this current trend, then it becomes a headwind for stocks and risk assets.
Good point. Kush was asking, why has Buffett increased his cash position to a measly 300 billion?
Yeah. So as a percentage of, I think Buffett's, you know, total assets or market cap, it's not, there, it has been at, I think it's around 18% of total assets, or total market cap. I forget the exact metric that I was looking at the other day, but it's been at that level before, but it's certainly an elevated level relative to where it's been. I think part of it is just him taking profits on Apple and Bank of America, stocks that have done very well, and not having a lot of great places to put that yet. So that is a component. I think he's just, you know, it's
a terrible problem to have, man.
Yeah.
It's too much money to find good investments for. I know you've talked about this, like the benefit to being a smaller investor versus like a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. What has your thoughts changed on that? Or do you still believe that that's the case, that we have a big advantage over the big funds?
Oh, absolutely. A big advantage in terms of the smaller capital base and having way more stuff to invest in. Like I talked to one of my old buddies at the hedge fund I used to work at, you know, and they're managing a couple billion now. And he's like, if I send him a stock idea of even a company that has $1 billion market cap, that's too small for them. They can't even look at $1 billion market cap company. And so the universe of stocks that they can even invest in is basically 10 billion of market cap and higher. And that, you know, that really limits your ability to find alpha when you're just only dealing in the most large liquid stocks. So that their universe of assets they can even look at is small relative to ours, which is, you know, as smaller investors can be still very wide. We could look at small caps, mid caps, all that stuff. So
yeah, we can put 1,000 into Comma Coin.
Costco hot dogs, baby. Yeah. Oh, I did want to say one other thing on Buffett, though. You know, something that I think the market may be sleeping on, and it's an unfortunate thing to talk about, but Buffett is, you know, he's getting up there. He's in his 90s, and I don't think he's got that many years left. And so a component of them raising cash could also be thinking about the transition and thinking about giving the newer managers of Berkshire, particularly when Warren passes on, you know, a cash pile to be able to kind of redefine what Berkshire's doing. Or maybe they'll decide to do a big dividend. That could be a component of it that people aren't talking about is what if they're doing this on purpose? They're taking profits and looking to dividend a large portion of Berkshire back to its holders as Warren passes on. I don't know. That could be a component as well worth thinking about.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, yeah. Charlie, rest in peace. Buffett, he'll probably be on his way soon. Yeah. Hopefully not. I mean, but yeah.
You never know. You never know.
All right, Trav. Charles has a question. Which one breaks out first, the SPY or Bitcoin?
I mean, I think we're seeing it real time.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Bitcoin is making its way. We're getting it momentum right now.
73-ish.
Where the ES, aka S&P, is, I mean, look, we're not far off of all-time highs. We got to kind of zoom in here. We are about, I mean, shit, it's actually closer than I thought. It's less than 1% away. So, you know, it's not too crazy to think like if Bitcoin stalls out and we have a green day tomorrow, yeah, the S&P could be at a new all-time high before Bitcoin hits it. But we've got the intraday momentum. I'm sitting here looking at my watch because we could have an afternoon rush, right? This is now kind of the time in between like 2:30 and 3:30 Eastern time, where if you're going to get that market close rush, this is usually around that time. But as Trav mentioned, doesn't have to do it during US time. You know, it could also be somewhere, you know, maybe Asia wakes up and drives us home.
FOMO, maybe Asia FOMOs. You know, also the last hour of the U.S. stock trading day, you know, you may have, because we typically have elevated volume in stocks in that last half hour of trading, you may also get more flows into the ETFs in that last half hour that could kind of provide that thrust towards the end of day.
Yes, thrust.
Love a good thrust.
You guys are children.
Nikki says we're children. We are men children. Man children.
I'm gonna go on record and say Bitcoin is gonna reach an all-time high before the S&P.
Nikki said, here, you need to take that back. Nikki said, say that one more time.
I'm gonna go on record and say that Bitcoin's gonna hit an all-time high before the S&P 500.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I think I agree with you there.
I think we all are in agreement there.
Yeah.
Or well, for the most part.
What do you think? Are you advising your clients to buy Costco hot dog?
Yeah. What allocation should your clients have to Costco hot dog and Coin?
Honestly, is Costco's chart still going pretty ham? Like Costco's
Costco's stock doesn't matter. We don't care about one of the most profitable companies in the world.
But doesn't it matter that Costco's doing well and selling hot dogs, which lets your meme coin?
No.
It doesn't matter.
Costco were to gap down on the earnings report, would that actually affect the meme coin?
Yeah. Would Costco stock affect Costco hot dog coin? I don't know.
What is the correlation between hot dog coin and Costco?
Let's see if we can find something. I don't know.
That analysis later. You know,
yeah, we need that analysis ASAP, Trav.
It can't be that high because we're well off all-time highs on the hot dog coin. But, you know, Costco stock is still very close to all-time highs. It's looking a little toppy, to be honest. It is trading at 55 times earnings. Costco stock, that is. Great company, expensive stock. I can't buy it here. The meme coin, however, great meme coin. Cheap meme coin?
Hashtag not financial advice.
Absolutely not.
All right. Neil, with Bitcoin dominance most likely topping out in the next 3 to 6 months, most gains will be in riskier assets like alts. I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with you. So look, here's the thing. Okay, so I think the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the bull case now is that, you know, Bitcoin's going up and therefore like alts are going to get more juice, which they certainly could. But this was my thesis actually at the start of the bull market. For you guys that are in the wealth building community, you can vouch for me. I said this in Q1 of 2023. I said, look, we're getting a bull market, right? From right here, we broke the bear market price structure and we went into a bull market. Not to brag, but I'm going to pat myself on the back here and say that I bought this pullback right here at 20K and we had a great trade there. And I said, look, I am biasing towards Bitcoin because I don't think that alts are going to do what they did last cycle. I think alts are going to underperform and I think Bitcoin's going to rule the roost. And that's what happened, right? Look at Bitcoin dominance. It went up like crazy and it's still going up. So I don't know. I'm not convinced that Bitcoin dominance is, or wait a minute. Are you talking about the daily chart? I don't know. I don't know if you're talking about daily or dominance, Bitcoin, BTCD, whatever. Either one though, dominance or the daily. I think capital is flowing into Bitcoin right now. And if you look at where others, so if you eliminate the top 10 by market cap altcoins, other crypto assets are like still like 40% off of all-time highs. Isn't that crazy? And right now, though, I actually think this is a good point to kind of pull up. I'm glad you mentioned this because alts are kind of at a do or die point right now. Like you notice here, we're squeezing in between the 200 period as resistance and the 50 and the 100 as support, and we're squeezing. So I think it's do or die. Like alts are either going to break out below these moving averages and then go into a long kiss of death, or if they get above the 200, we may have a recovery. But here's the thing. Again, what I'm doing, and this isn't financial advice, but this is my strategy. I'm looking for stuff that has alpha above Bitcoin, like Solana, right? Like this was a great trade. I've still got a runner that I'm holding on this, but we were buying around $50, scaling out into strength. Actually got a pretty bad fill here at like 90, but closed a lot up here around 200. I'm looking for stuff that has alpha above Bitcoin. And the reality is most stuff is underperforming. So are alts dead? I don't think so. But just because Bitcoin dominance is at its highest level, I think it's going to keep going. I don't think it's topped out here. I've been making the case that I think we're headed for 70. And I think that's going to be depressing for a lot of people to hear, but I think it's the truth. We'll see if I'm right. I don't know. I could be wrong. What are you looking for?
Just seeing what the vibes are like out there.
Oh yeah, market sentiment, people euphoric.
It's really not as euphoric as you would think, I saw a chart the other day of did you post this? That was like Google Trends searches or Google searches of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Not even that high, right?
Yes. Google Trends. Yeah, it was at multi-year lows, and I was showing how, and I tweeted, I said, Bitcoin makes the biggest moves when the least amount of people are paying attention. So if we go back like 5 years, let's do global. Look at this. So it's at basically coming off the lowest levels. The lowest was actually October 2020 before that bull market got started. And then it's been like kind of trending down. So retail's been out, people have been burned. FTX burned people, all these ICO scams, the hexes and the pulses of the world, the cult leaders that led everybody to slaughter, all those people are still pissed and running and hiding. And, look at this shit. I mean, stuff like this, right? So it's the people that stayed disciplined and didn't get dissuaded or at least traded in and out that they did well.
I think this is a really important conversation. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, go for it. I think we got a little delay on the audio, so go for it.
Oh, okay. I think this is a really important conversation because, especially for us in the community, I'm actually going to be doing a class, a money coaching class for our community members, where the topic is going to be managing profits from the trading and investing, especially around Bitcoin, to secure your financial future. And I think that this point of how the euphoria is non-existent right now is a really big one, because I think that what could end up happening is the FOMO that ends up, if this does break out, if price breaks out, new all-time high in Bitcoin, and the momentum can hold, that's where the FOMO buying comes in, and we eventually see that flip in sentiment, right? And a lot of people are probably not going to believe it until they see it and until like price is way higher. And then that's going to build a whole nother level of momentum and FOMO buying. Similarly to what happened kind of in the stock market over the past year, where we didn't think we could get to these levels. And then, there were a lot of people doubting thinking a recession was coming. A recession never came. Price was going higher. A lot of cash and money market funds, all these things were kind of compiling to where we had this beautiful run in the S&P 500 that literally not many people were expecting. So I think that when we're talking about Bitcoin investors, crypto investors, but Bitcoin specifically, and we're trying to manage trades and investments, we're moving into a potential cycle that could be life-changing wealth for a lot of people. And you have to understand how to manage that trade. And so one of the biggest things we see a lot is people regret taking profits too early, right? They regret, they don't think things are going to run as they end up happening, as we've seen in 2017 and in many other times in the markets, and they end up with all this regret. So I think it's important to pay a lot of attention to market sentiment right now, a lot of attention to when it starts to flip, and managing that price action, managing that trade for a potential big FOMO, a big FOMO trade essentially in Bitcoin. Because I don't know, I don't want to get overly excited about it or get too, enthusiastic about it, but we've seen when sentiment is in the gutter and then when it shifts, how powerful that can be on price momentum. So I'm wondering what that's going to look like for this, because this is a major multi-year breakout, major. And nobody's talking about it.
To your point, Nick, it's like, nobody's talking about it. We when we had the wealth building retreat in Austin, we had a pretty small group of mostly crypto whales that, they said one of the best things that they like about the community and what we do is they get to be around people that are in this space. Because if you're in a small town or even a bigger city, but most people aren't in this world, they're not thinking about this stuff. And so, it can be lonely, but it can also be revealing to how niche this really is still. So, I think that there was absolutely nobody in this trend until right here. So like when Bitcoin was in between 15 and 25K, everybody was convinced we were in a bear market. Like so many people missed out. Even before the ETF, like nobody was paying attention. And then it was like after Bitcoin made this move from 50 to 70 right here, this is the first time that we saw mainstream media and mom and pop really wake up. But guess what happened? They went back to sleep because it's been over 230 days since Bitcoin topped out, right? So everybody fell asleep. Everybody went away again. So what's going to happen is if there's a big breakout over the next couple of weeks and months going into the new year, Nick, to your point, that's where the FOMO kicks in. And I think that's where shit gets really weird.
Thanksgiving conversations, Christmas conversations, those are the people sitting around the table. Grandma asked, should I put some Bitcoin in my portfolio? maybe not grandma, but your uncle, whoever.
Everybody's asking you to set up their wallets on their phones.
Look, nobody's texting us and asking us about Bitcoin yet. So that just goes to show you how early it is.
I did just make one of my good friends put his gambling money back into Bitcoin though. So
there we go.
He won a 13 game NFL parlay. The odds of that are like 1 in 8 or 9,000. He won 13. You had to win all 13 to win your bet. He bet, I think it was $15. I put it on Twitter a couple weeks ago. He bet $15 and walked away with over $5,000. Damn. And I was like, brother, we need to talk. A, quit gambling on sports because it's stupid, but congratulations. B, let's go ahead and put that into something good.
There we go.
We just crossed 73K, did we? Are we getting the afternoon push, guys?
Everybody's coming back, maybe getting a cup of coffee,
Yeah. 73.69.
Okay. There we go.
So
I'll tell you what though, I haven't had my lunch. So I don't know if y'all are gonna keep going, but I might have to step out for like a Chick-fil-A sandwich or something.
We got Neil saying Bitcoin's up 5%, SUI is up 30, says it all. Okay, well, let's take a look. Actually, let me see if I have it on my list here. So every now and then we get people that are like, you know, they're part of a community or they're part of something. And I don't like to look at just day by day, right? Let's see if there's alpha here long term. Okay. There might be. Let's take a look. So what I mean by that, oh, let's get on the daily. Okay, not really. Okay, so SUI is actually one that has tracked with Bitcoin. So the fact that this chart is flat means that SUI hasn't lost value to Bitcoin going back, you know, a year or two, but there's not a lot of alpha there. Okay. From the lows, right, from August, there has been a nice move, right? So this would have been a nice trade off of the moving averages. So again, and I don't care what the ticker is. They're all just tickers to me. I don't get emotional or culty about any alts. I just look for like, is there alpha there? So like Sol is another one that did something similar, but even that, look, it hasn't exceeded
Share your
Bitcoin.
screen.
Oh shit, I'm not even sharing my screen. Oh crap. Sorry guys. This is what I was showing. So SUI, if you look at this chart, this is what I mean. Like, see how the chart is flat? So that means there's no like long-term alpha over Bitcoin. And even Sol, you know, Sol has had a good year this year, but it's still below last market's pivot highs. So that, again, that's why I trade in and out of these things. And it's not that you shouldn't hold in all. It's not that I'm talking shit about any all, unless it's a scam like Hex. But you know, I just put it into context of like what is the capital bucket and what is your goal for that trade or that investment? I know some people that have been, you know, dogmatically holding on to Cardano, right? Which, look at this wall of death, right? And they'll try to troll me on Twitter and stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, cool. Like you can hold these things into oblivion and, you know, destroy wealth for yourself, but the data is clear. One of the only crypto assets that has done well over a 5+ year period, you know, there's a handful of them.
Doge is another one people have been talking about this week.
Yeah. Let's pull up Doge.
Definitely one that's popping off, but you know, still below its multi-year highs.
We made a lot of money on Doge. Okay. So we were into Doge early, way back here. We were trading Doge when it was
0.001 or whatever.
Yep. Elon went on SNL and literally created the top. Okay. So the exact day that he was on was the top. So he pumped it to people on mainstream TV, and then price went down 95 or more %. And it's been accumulating, and it had like this fake out breakout. So I started to get interested back here, but it actually trapped. But yeah, now it's actually starting to get a little bit of juice. So Doge has become a tougher one because it's, I don't know, it's burned a lot of people, and like it's got a lot of volatility, but yeah, it can be a great trader. Hey, Drew's one of our OG members. Drew said, Chris, maybe talk about how you know when it's time for the waterfall of capital into alts. Yeah. So the way that it typically works is this, like you have Bitcoin that like has a breakout, right? So this is like step one is like you get a big move in Bitcoin. So one big BTC move. What happens after that is after Bitcoin makes a big move, when Bitcoin pulls back, okay, when some people take profit too, they sell BTC usually into fiat like USD or an alt, right? Not everybody that sells Bitcoin on this pullback will sell into fiat. They'll actually buy SUI or ETH or Sol or whatever, right? And so this is where you'll have alt charts that'll move inversely with that move. So like as Bitcoin's price is coming down, the alt chart will gain. So 3 alt charts gain. We actually noticed this for the first time in like 2015, 2016, when the first alts were really trading with liquidity. So alts gain, and you have that inverse relationship. And then after that, so typically it'll start though with like, so like 3A is like large cap alts, and then like 3B is like smaller cap alts. What we're seeing though is not necessarily like this flow anymore, this precisely. It's now it's like niches, like, you know, meme coins are popping off and like newer coins. A lot of the legacy stuff, like look at Litecoin. You know, it's not even close to its prior. Shit, even have to go to a weekly. You know, the last few market cycles, it wasn't able to make a new all-time high. ETH underperforming. You know, even Solana hasn't taken out its prior all-time high yet. Where, you know, some of the meme coins and stuff, that's where capital is looking for fresh opportunity. So, but yeah, I think that's kind of my take on that. All right.
I got to run, but thanks for having me, guys.
Cool. Thanks for joining, Nick. Yeah, well, we can start to wrap it up here. I know Trav's about to pass out if he doesn't eat. Yeah, let's see. Did we miss any questions? I know we covered a lot of stuff. We've been going for 2 hours now. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm out of water. I drink a lot of water, man.
Oh, dude, I feel you. It's good.
Yeah. I'm starting to lose my voice too. Let's see. Burnett, how to play these days before and after the elections? Wait until later or just go in on this breakout? Caution seems to be the most obvious. You know, imagine a Kamala win last minute. Yeah, that's a good point. Trav?
Yeah, no, we talked earlier in the stream about that, that the markets do seem to be increasingly pricing a Trump win. And, you know, the bad scenario there, of course, would be that if it flips, if we get to election day and all of a sudden there's a surprise that surprises the market where Kamala, you know, appears to gain the lead, then there could be a snap down, right? There could be at least for a brief time period, just because.
One second. Yeah. So the 3 o'clock candle just printed. And one thing you'll notice is when a new hourly candle starts trading, usually it'll like, you'll get a flood of like algorithmic orders. So I just wanted to point that up. That's why we're getting that pop. So maybe we will get to see a new all-time high.
Yeah, we're super close. We're like 0.5% off right now.
Let's go. All right, but back to your point about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just that, you know, I think there could be a short-term move. I don't think it's ultimately going to be that big of a deal for the market. Like, I think even if Kamala wins, I don't think it would be a type of situation where we're going to see a market crash, but I do think there could be a couple days of a market pullback before people realize that, like, longer term, whoever's in that presidential seat, it doesn't really matter for risk asset returns. It's other factors that are going to dominate. So yeah, but I do think, you know, given certain areas of the market that are priced for a Trump win already, that could be a negative. I mean, just look at DJT today. Like, DJT stock is like ripping higher. You know, it's one where if you had a Kamala win, which would obviously be a little bit of a surprise to the market if she won, but DJT could be down 50%, you know, in a day on that situation. Yeah. Now BTC, I'm not so sure. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you think Bitcoin would do. You know, all the prediction markets, I mean, it's not like they're dramatically in favor of Trump. And a lot of the polls are still showing, even in the battleground states, it's still very close. Like Pennsylvania is still almost 50-50, and that's a huge swing state. So yeah, I think the probability that she could win is still, you know, pretty high.
Yeah. It's definitely not like I think like a very clear, decisive winner. I mean, look at what the betting markets and the polls were saying about Hillary, right? Like they had her 70, 80, 95% probability of winning. And so even though like on poly markets, even though this looks like a big spread, hey, there's Nikki. Oh, thank you. She's bringing us something to drink. Thank you. Got a midday beer. No, just kidding. Waterloo. We'll be done in a minute.
Yeah.
So even though this looks like a big spread, if it was like, so here's the thing, the betting odds in the polls are very, very different. like a 1% edge in the polls or a 1% win in the actual election means this should be 100-0, right? So a 65-35 spread is actually not that like huge. It's meaningful, and there's $2.5 billion on this, so that's meaningful, but it doesn't mean that Trump has it in the bag. So yeah, I mean, I've thought about this. I just don't know how to prepare for it other than saying, like, maybe this is one of those moments where I just let price action be a guide and I don't try to overthink it. Because if you try to front run it, A, I might be wrong. And B, I don't know how the markets are truly going to react. So I'm just trading based on price action.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's also hard to know. I mean, again, like Kamala's campaign, they came out pro crypto in the last couple of weeks too. And so I don't know, you probably would get a sell-off in the equity markets, which would probably pressure Bitcoin on a very short-term basis, but that could flip very quickly, even if she wins. So I don't know, like, do I really want to stay out of the market or make decisions based on the election when I think like the election's really only going to have like a 72-hour impact on most things. Now, there are specific sectors or specific stocks where it could have a more permanent impact, DJT, for example. But for a huge asset like Bitcoin, I just don't know if I really want to be making my investing decisions because of a concern about Kamala. But if you really were concerned, what you could do is put on some other type of hedge, right? You could buy some deep out of the money put spreads or puts on DJT or on the SPY. Or on QQQs. And so there's a lot of ways that you could hedge, I think, for that scenario that don't involve like selling your Bitcoin. Especially if you're in a long-term position, you don't want to generate, taxable events. So
C-Trader was saying that Kamala can make the difference because she intends to increase the tax on capital gains. Yeah, I mean, I think, the conservatives and Republicans have been very vocal about being pro-crypto and, lower taxes and all that, where Kamala, she kind of, I think, pretends to be pro-crypto, kind of, but hasn't really made any very convincing statements. So I think the markets will look at a Trump victory as favorable for Bitcoin and crypto. But at the end of the day, does it matter? Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's not just a US based thing. It's a global asset. Maybe for altcoins, maybe for shitcoins, it's not great. But for Bitcoin, what are they getting? They're not going to ban it.
It's also, what matters with the legislatures could have an effect too. If you get a very narrow win from Trump or Kamala, but then, the opposite party controls the Senate or the House or both the Senate and the House, that will have an effect too. So you almost I think you would need like a surprise Democratic sweep or a surprise Republican sweep to really have a massive surprise for the market that would change the view of what the future looks like.
Well said. Well said. All right, man. Who's got a fast forward button on this chart? Oh, man.
It definitely wants to go. Like it's there. It's like, I keep seeing it like,
My guess is that there's going to be a lot of sell orders around here. There's probably going to be some volatility. Like if it does get very, very close, there's going to be some algos that do some games. I doubt it's going to just run right through it. It certainly could though. Like if there's big block orders and it hits the all-time high, it could just like set off like a cascade effect of like buy stop market orders. But usually that's not what happens. Usually it's volatile, over, under, all around, doing backflips. Things can get volatile. Like there really hasn't been any volatility today. Basically there was the move last night that just happened in basically 1 hour. And then we went low volume and flat overnight. And then the market opened and then Bitcoin went with the US market. So the US definitely drove this today. Question is, are we going to pass the baton to Asia and are they going to take over?
I am noticing, we talked about MicroStrategy earlier in depth, but it's interesting to note that MicroStrategy is only up 1% today. And that could be, again, some nervousness ahead of their earnings tomorrow, but that could be something to watch too, is like maybe the Bitcoin proxies, looking at them for some information on what the real risk-taking attitude looks like here.
Yeah, the daily is kind of interesting on MicroStrategy. The way that it's been trading is like gap and then like flat on the day, gap, run, flat. So, it's kind of like doing the Christmas tree, green, red, green, red, green, red. So I kind of zoom out and I just look at this as like one leg. But yeah, there's not, I mean, the average volume has been going up. We haven't had any extreme volume today. Intraday, it trades. So, for you guys that don't know how stocks trade, there's regular market hours, which is like the black background. This yellow shade is overnight and pre-market. So if you're on TradingView and you pull up a daily chart, you're not going to see that price action. If you go to an hourly and you put this on extended trading hours, you're going to see the post and pre-market price action. So you can see MicroStrategy actually traded, the high was 270.52. And then on market open, it sold and then was kind of flat. So MicroStrategy actually does have a lot of moves kind of overnight and in the pre-market, which is why you see those gaps. Ryan, apologies if you touched on this already, but do you feel that we continue the 4-year crypto cycle now that we have an ETF? Will the ETF have an impact on the cycle going forward? It's a good question. Yeah, we get this quite a bit. So the question is like, will ETFs change the 4-year cycle? So I think we don't want to conflate two things. One thing is the 4-year halving cycle, which an ETF doesn't impact that at all, right? Every 4 years, the block rewards get cut in half. That's going to continue for a long time. The markets, the general market cycle of bull and bear markets, that's another thing to think about. And it typically moves. Let me pull up the stock to flow ratio and some like on-chain data. But that typically moves with the 4-year cycle. It's not perfect, but it rhymes, right? So let's pull this up. So this is a logarithmic chart of Bitcoin's price over time. And you can see the 4-year halving cycle. So the white lines are the halvings. And so the color goes from blue to red. Blue is right after the halving, red is right before it. Typically, the halving is around halfway through the price market cycle, meaning bear market to bull market. So right now you can see we're coming out of the blue going into green because we just have the halving, and we've definitely come up quite a bit. The question is are we going to get another second half of this market cycle? That's something that I wish I had a crystal ball and I could like say with absolute certainty, here's what's going to happen. I put the probability that the answer is yes, because that's what's happened in the history. But just like the whole like disclaimer thing says, like past performance doesn't predict future performance. It's literally because you can't extrapolate, the data from the past and guarantee the future, but you can look at it for an edge. And so I'm going to say that these market cycle having things are a self-fulfilling prophecy until proven wrong, right? So you can either say, everybody knows about it and it's not going to work, or you can be in the other camp of, I'm going to think that it's going to work until it doesn't. Now, what happened last cycle, which was kind of weird, was people thought that and I was included in this camp, is I thought we were going to get a parabolic blow off top. We did not get that. Price action, it actually became kind of a crowded trade. And so back here, around here, it looked like we were about to go parabolic. And then there was this like bull trap price action, and then FTX funkiness, like threw a wrench in everything. So something like that could absolutely happen. Let me look. Are we getting close here, guys? Oh shit. Yes, we are.
A bit of a thrust at 73.6. And then
yes, we just need one more thrust.
Need a good thrust.
All right. How many doll hairs are we off of the all-time high? And we need to look at, because there's different exchanges, right? So let me draw some lines here. Probably gonna miss it, aren't I? High 73,794. So I come in here, go to coordinates 73794. Go to the daily. Woo! Okay, we're still below that one. Our CME futures at an all-time high yet. 74,415. $74, what did I say, 415? I think that was right. Let's go to an hourly. Whoa, baby. All right, we're really, really close here. And then Coinbase. Okay. What were we talking about before that? Oh yeah, the stock to flow and the halving cycle. So yeah, I was one that, you know, I thought we were going to get a parabolic blow off top last time, and that did not happen. But I am still, I don't want to say like a believer in this, but I think that it's most likely to occur until proven wrong. Now, will price make it to, you know, this, excuse me, the stock to flow price of over $1 million this halving cycle? I don't know. We fell short last cycle. It was, you know, showing about 100K. But I think the odds are favoring this continuation and through the green dots, right? Like oh crap, I keep doing this. Where did the reverse button go? Let's open it full size. There we go. Okay. So are we going to get these green dots to go to a new all-time high? I think so. So that's what I mean. Now, how do the ETFs play? If anything, I think that kind of helps it. It's extra capital flow. You know, Nikki spoke earlier about all-time high CME, Michelle says. Is it? I guess, yeah, and I also don't know what the contracts were adjusted for rollover, but yeah, as Nikki was saying earlier, you know, there's a lot of advisors that could drive capital flow. So I think it's more bullish than bearish. We got gold that's also up. New all-time high on gold. Let's look at a gold BTC chart. Where did my comparison go? What?
Just looking at memes.
You know what I love about memes? It's like that whole thing. Like if pictures are worth 1,000 words, memes are worth 1,000 pictures. Send that to me. I'll pull it up. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, golds. Where's metals? Where is my? Oh, I didn't save it. Hang on. Let's look at a Bitcoin USD to gold XAU USD. Let's try this one. Yeah, so also popping up compared to gold, which is interesting.
This is one of gold's best years ever.
On a percentage basis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Peter Schiff's like, thank God I don't look like a fool anymore. Thoughts on a crypto index fund? All the ones I've seen underperform Bitcoin. Every single one I've seen has underperformed Bitcoin. That's the thing. Like, I don't look at crypto as an asset class like stocks where you want to diversify. It's like, why would you diversify into lower return assets over time? Altcoins are for trading to accumulate more Bitcoin and fiat that you can recycle and invest in other shit. Altcoins are not for investing. That's my thesis. That's how I've made a lot of money over the past decade. And I'm going to stick with that until something proves me wrong. But I've seen all the cults come and go. I've seen the Safe Moon cults, the Hex cults, the Luna Terra. Holy shit. How can we even forget that? Oh my God.
XRP, we've seen the
Ripple. Yeah. Oh my God. Just time after time after time, they come and go and come and go. They troll on Twitter and then disappear. And BitConnect. Yeah, Safe Moon, BitConnect. I had to like, these are on my muted lists. Like Twitter is just so annoying with these old people. All right, come on. I'm getting hungry too. Can we move this thing?
Hey, we just need a whale to sneeze or fart.
Yeah. All right, we'll give it till we'll give it another 10 minutes. We'll see if the half-hour candle, if the 30-minute candle will do something here. What other questions while we're waiting, guys? We may have missed some stuff. We got flooded with some scam bots earlier, so I know there were some questions we missed.
Yeah, you want to, bro.
Nice. Yeah, we're going to get some barbecue after this. Can't beat that Texas BBQ, baby. Yeah, this is actually Bitcoin to the NASDAQ. So this is what I like to see is when, you know, Bitcoin can make a thrust against the NQ. So, you know, when Bitcoin outperforms stocks, that's really when like the best alpha is there, when Bitcoin starts to move independent of stocks. Can we look at an order book? Yeah. So this computer and setup, I'm not logged into any of my exchanges. I keep that stuff totally segregated. What site could we pull up to look at an order book where you don't have to be logged in? Maybe Kraken. Let's see. Yeah, which order book do you guys want to see? All right. So taking a look here at Kraken. So this is an order book. And usually what I do when I'm looking, oh, there we go. Forgot to pull it up. Usually what I do whenever I'm looking at a key area is I'll pull up like a 1 hour, or sometimes I'll go to like an intraday, like a 5 or a 15-minute. But a couple of things that you can look at is like, so this is market trades or the time and sales. This is like a history book of all the executed trades. And then the order book or market depth, you know, basically this is like a bulletin board of people saying, I want to buy at these prices and I want to sell at these prices. Then you got the spread there in the middle. So, and you can like zoom in or out on that and make it as precise as you want. But, you know, you can see right now, if you go to the market trades, you're going to see a flood of selling, right? So you might see some big blocks, but you can see like right here, this was likely an algorithm dumping and then an algo buying back. Like when you see these that are all in a row, like really, really fast, a lot of times that's algorithms and it's just hard to like make sense of that, make sense out of it. What I'm going to do is if we zoom out a little bit, you can see right here, there's a 20 something block sell limit order at 73, right around 73. And these typically jump around a little bit, but like 73 is the level to get through, right? And so if you start to see like buyers eat away at that, and you start to see like big block orders or just a sea of green eating away at some of these bigger orders, that's typically when you can tell if a resistance area is going to break or not. Now, this is definitely more of an art than a science. It can get really confusing and just really frustrating to try to watch that. You know, that's why a lot of people will use, like day traders and big funds, they'll use algorithms to do that, because you're not going to be as fast as an algo. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye. It looks like the markets are putting in a little bit of a reversal right before the all-time high. So we may flatline, we may get a pullback. We've got about 5 minutes until we wrap it up here, unless something happens, but we got to get some food. Yeah, Frankie, we talked a lot about MicroStrategy. Basically the recap there is I'm long. We hit my first target. I haven't taken any profit yet. I'm going to hold through earnings, see what happens. I don't think the company earnings matter so much as like their Bitcoin yield, which I expect to look pretty good based on Bitcoin's price movement. So there's probably going to be some bullishness and some, I don't know. What do you think, Trav? You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, they'll come out with max bullishness. The metrics should look pretty good from a Bitcoin yield perspective. I'll be interested to see if they announce another offering. Honestly, they should do another offering up here. I don't know how the market would view that, if they'd view that. They should probably view it bullishly, but yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Sody Pop. I have about 7K in an older alt that I'd like to move somewhere else. I think I might put half in Bitcoin and the other and some higher risk. Yeah, I mean, look, number one, I can't give you financial advice, but my general answer is, if somebody's like, hey, I got this alt, I don't really know what to do with. My answer is, well, I like to have a plan for everything that I'm in, right? Like if I'm in something, I want to know, is this a trade? Is this an investment? Am I in it because I want to hold to zero, or do I have a stop zone? If you don't have a plan, a lot of times that doesn't turn out so well. So a lot of people just end up bag holding stuff. But I think if you're bag holding something and it's not performing and you're like, this is taking up mental capital and it's like sucking up my cash, usually, you know, the smarter option is to just sell that and then get into something better. Or if it's something you quote unquote believe in and you're like, I'm in this for a reason, maybe that's the only way that you really want to hold. But hope that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of variables and it's hard to give advice when I can't really give advice because I don't know your personal situation and I'm not an advisor. So, but that's in general how I typically look at it. All right, Trav, what are we going to do here, bud? Should we keep holding on?
I think we're kind of seeing that choppiness that you mentioned that we'd probably see around the, you know, the all-time high level, like even as we're kind of moving up towards it.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's probably some impatience, some algos, some people sitting on it. I think we'll get it today. I don't know if it'll be in the next 10 minutes. We might have to go grab some grub.
I have to get some food and then come back another day. Joe, we talked about ETH, how it's been underperforming, and Sol has really been eating its lunch. ETH is up, you know, year to date on a dollar basis. It's only up 16%, where Sol is up, you know, 75 or so. But the King is near an all-time high, looking like it wants to go. All right, guys, we got 3 minutes. Throw in any final questions, comments. Did you guys enjoy this? Should we do it again? I know it's been forever since I did a live stream on my channel. But yeah, like it up. Let the algo know that we're here. And yeah, we'll be recording a We Talk Money episode as well. If you guys aren't subbed to that, I'll pull this up. WeTalkMoney.com. You can see the YouTube channel or the podcast that we have that Nikki, Travis, and I do. Also, if you go to wealthbuildingcommunity.com, here on the Skill Incubator, this is our wealth building community where we have our Discord channel, our live market updates, watch list, trade alerts, all that fun stuff. You can check that out. If you're not in there, what are you even doing with your life? It's a fun place to come chill and meet up in real IRL. We are planning another one. We just had one here in Austin, which was awesome. Looking forward to seeing you guys somewhere a little more tropical next time. Sweet. All right. 2 minutes and counting. Trav, any final words, any thoughts?
Final words and thoughts.
Buy Comic Coin.
Buy
hot dog.
Please, Bitcoin, please don't rug 99%. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think we get it probably later today at some point. And then the question is, win 100K.
Good question. By end of year or not? Got like 2 months left.
I mean, it will be interesting to get, once that all-time high prints, it's always good for media headlines and getting in some of the casuals back into the fold saying, oh, my Bitcoin portfolio is up, or, oh, maybe I should put some capital into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We need people getting in at the highs,
Sometimes, buying high is not a bad idea if it's a strong breakout and you manage risk correctly. It's true. All right, there's the 330 print. Price action still consolidating. So yeah, Julius just said BTC broke 100K Canadian. Hey, we made it to 100K. I haven't looked at a Canadian chart in a while. Ooh. Oh, it did just break 100K. Congratulations, eh? Was that an all-time high? It is an all-time high. I'm glad you brought this up, because this is typically what will happen is Bitcoin will break a new all-time high first on different fiats. So BTC AUD, let's see where that's at. Yep, that's an all-time high today. I completely forgot to mention that. We just broke a new high there. What about the yen? Yen, yes. Euro? Euro, yes. Here, I'm going to tweet this too. You guys go give me a retweet or something. BTC new all-time high in CAD, AUD, EUR, JPY, USD coming soon. All right. Euro, what other fiat am I forgetting?
You could look at the
Korean pound, yeah. BTC, GBP. No, it has not hit with the pound. What about the Korean won? KRW? Not quite there either. Yeah, exactly, Manny. Manny says I need to travel because the markets typically move when I travel. That is very true. When I'm on a plane, it likes to do big things. The EU is a scam. We are trapped. Yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling that about their home countries over the last couple of years. Appreciate it. Poke, poke. All right. Well, we did hit a new all-time high during the stream, at least we can say. Wait a minute. The CME did. CME tagged a new all-time high. Whee!
There we did.
There we go.
There we go.
Let me just double check that. Okay, the high was 74,415. Yes, we did. Congratulations. CME futures just tagged it. So one more check. Looks like spot exchanges want to take a chill pill. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for coming. TD, thanks for hanging out. This was fun.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, man. Guys, share this up. If anybody you know is losing money in the crypto space or needs help, we're always here to help. Reach out if there's anything we can do to help you guys. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, stay tuned. We've got more content, a new evolution of the Daily Dough, all the continued stuff we always do. We talk money.
Yeah.
New episodes coming.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We will see you guys next time. Take care.